Hey, and welcome back to our podcast, Life Unscripted. This is episode 2, and I guess we'll start with asking you how your week was. How was your week?
Yeah, it was good. It's been a week since we filmed. So
It has, yes. It's been 7 days since we did episode 1.
I really enjoyed the first podcast, well, first episode actually.
Yeah.
I was a bit nervous whenever I sat down and we got going, but once we started chatting, it was fine.
Yeah, I was nervous too. I think it did take us, we did one take, and it was a bit all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the second take, which was actually really good, but I made a mistake with the mics, which are working now, I hope. But yeah, we recorded like a 40-minute long podcast.
Yeah.
With no audio, and I couldn't salvage the audio.
And we even got our drink and we're like, oh yay, congrats, we did our first one. And then we sat down and I was like, there's no audio, Sarah. And I was like, what do you mean there's no audio?
We got some alcohol and we were celebrating having a drink each, first podcast done, and then
we're going to put it on the telly and watch it.
Yeah, we were going to watch it.
And Chris was like, Sarah, there's no audio. I'm like, no, there must be.
Yeah, so then we got kind of scripted and I was trying to salvage it.
But I guess it was the universe's way of saying, this isn't the one for you guys, you got to do this again. And I think then the next one we did was really good.
Which
better than the last one.
Which we haven't released yet, but by the time you're hearing us talk about this...
Well, it will have been released. We're releasing it tomorrow.
Yeah,
and this will be the following week.
No, what I'm saying is we've not released it yet, but by the time people listen to this podcast, it will have been released.
Gotcha.
As of right now in life...
It's not been released.
It's not been released.
We're eager to get it out there.
We're talking about it, but we don't actually know if anything will happen after us releasing it. Getting 100,000 followers and just being massive, for sure. Yeah,
we're gonna go viral overnight.
Yeah, maybe. And it's literally just being
what you put in is what you get out, right?
That's true. But I have spent a week basically trying to we were going to release a bit earlier, but I realised I had no idea.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
To deal with any be a podcast producer. I'm like, this is easy. I'm like, oh wait, no, there's a lot. So just learning out different softwares to edit the podcast and distribute the podcast, and even how we're formatting it for clips for social media and stuff. Just getting all that stuff in order that I just hadn't anticipated needing to do, but now I know.
Have you enjoyed learning about it though?
Yeah, it's been really fun. I think.
Do you like editing?
I really enjoy editing. So, I've I even remember back when we were Windows Movie Maker, which is aging me maybe, but. I used to love making these videos and that. I remember when I got this old set. I found it in a charity shop actually. It was this old secondhand camcorder where I could record things.
I was wondering what this hand movement was.
So, if those that are not familiar, born after maybe the year 2000.
We're considered old, by the way.
Yeah, we're old now.
If you ask 18-year-olds, it's I would consider the late 1900s. I saw a Instagram one. If you're considered the late 1900s, you're getting on a bit, and I was like, I think my heart just died.
A camcorder is a strap you'd put in it, and then you put out your eye.
At least in the movies. Huh?
It's got the wee screen you can open. I know there's people maybe not watching the video, but yes, it's got a wee screen you can open, and I got one of those, and I used to really love recording stuff, and then putting it on my family computer at the time, and just messing around in Windows. But yeah, I'm by no means a pro at video editing, but I've really enjoyed it, to answer your question. It's been fun, just learning new stuff about podcasting, and so just audio as well, and how to deal with that. I understand this is most people probably listen to this audio, so I realise that's the thing that really needs to be good. Have good audio, and then the video I can work on with time.
Yeah,
but as long as the audio,
when the audio is not quite right.
Yeah, well, if I was watching something that was really low quality, it wouldn't really bother me if the audio was fine. But if I was watching something in HD and the audio was crap, I think that would bother me a lot more.
True.
But to recap last week, the podcast was really, really fun. Mm-hmm. I feeling more comfortable this week. I can actually see we're kind of on episode 4, but really episode 2. I can see how we're already feeling more comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm feeling more comfortable anyway. I guess you are too.
And I think that was the whole point of the podcast, was to try and provide an organic conversation and bring it to viewers to help resonate and to show that communication can happen on different levels, and it can be lighthearted and have deep chats or whatever. But we really wanted to capture the conversations that we have right on the sofa, because not that I felt like it was forced last week, but I guess because it was our first one, we're probably a bit scripty in our heads about it. Like, it's nice just to sit here and be able to talk with you and have a laugh, because it's meant to be fun, and I want it to be relaxing for the viewers or the listeners. Like, the amount of podcasts and vlogs and things that I listen to, and you're just there like doing your bits and bobs around the house on a Sunday afternoon, and you pop on a wee podcast. Like, it's really nice to listen to.
Because it's just adjusting it's just really what it was last week, is us adjusting. We're still doing now, but it's us adjusting to the fact that there's a camera on us.
Yeah. Did you feel like the script got you last week? Just in discussion of what this podcast is about, like, it might be nice to delve in.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think it just, I'm always, like, the scripts always get me over, like, wanting to say the right things. And I think just, obviously now that we're recording something that's going to be put out, like, that's the thing though. I think maybe I spoke this last week, I can't remember, but I recorded a video. So I did the broadband consciousness course, it's where I learned about the script.
Yeah, you mentioned the video.
Yeah, and then they asked for videos, I sent one in, and the script was like, this video's crap. It's like, don't send it. I actually said in the video, I'm like, the script's saying this is no good, so I'm going to send it anyway. So I think that's just something I always feel, and it's something that I've come to realise I will always, the script, again, script not me, this other entity that I know is not me, but it's always going to feel that way.
Yeah.
So I think just, again, feeling more conscious and more awake, understanding that it's just always going to feel like it's not good. And that's the thing, to be fair, it was our first time podcasting. Mm-hmm. Like, it's, I guess in theory, the worst podcast we'll probably ever put out, if you know what I mean. Like, it's our least experienced podcast. Mm-hmm. So I'm not denying that fact. I'm totally comfortable. Like, I'm comfortable just not being great at it until we learn. But genuinely, I know that the script will never feel good about anything that I record, because it just is what the script is. Because, I mean, I didn't finish there. The video I did send to Richard and Liz for Broadband Consciousness, they ended up showing it, I think, most, if not all, of the courses they did after that. So obviously they must really like the video. They wouldn't show it otherwise. So, like, the script's just wrong in that instance. Mm-hmm. But even when it is wrong, it's still trying to convince me that it's right.
Yeah, it's like, you know, there's quite a lot of perfectionists in the world, myself included. Like, you're always trying to perfect what you're doing. Like, even when we were setting up the camera, like, wanted to get really consistent lighting and the positioning. Like, I need it to be perfect. I need it to be the same as last week, or else no one will like it. I'm like, the people that resonate out there with this are going to watch it. And it's the same with, like, my work. Sorry, excuse me. About my work, anything like that, like, I'm trying to always get it perfect, but it's the script ultimately. But I think it's really important that we did it. We smashed it, and we got through it. And I think it's then remembering and going like haha to the script at any moments where you're like, well, I can't do this. And like, well, the fact that we did it, yes, it might not have been perfect. It doesn't matter. And I think it's a really important conversation to have, because a lot of podcasts that I listen to, and they've released the first episode, like, it's seamless. Like, obviously they're either influencers or coming from a platform where they've got quite a lot of followers or something, like they've got people behind them, like a team that can work the podcast, but they never mention, oh, hey guys, it's our first podcast, I'm a little bit nervous, but we've got this whole team behind us that are going to make this look perfect. Then they launch it on whatever platform and everyone's like, oh god, this is incredible. But then for people in our position who want to do a podcast and try reach out to people and help people, we don't have that team, but I like the visibility of it, and then we can talk about it and maybe resonate. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's just about not being afraid to not be great at something to start. Like, I think that's something that stops a lot of people with a lot of things, especially like in the gym. Like, people don't want to come because they're afraid that they don't know what they're doing, and people are going to look at them and think they're weird. And it's just being brave enough to step up in spite of that and going to do the thing, which is exactly how we felt about this. And I think it's just like knowing that we have this voice in our head that's not going to be comfortable with it, that script, that we're just going to step up in spite of that and do it anyway. Yeah, and the feeling afterwards is like undescribable. Like the fact so that good. You went into the gym, or you went and you were nervous, or you went to the party because you were so what's happening today? You were so nervous. It's just like, oh, I can do it. Like the confidence, like those little baby steps that you build is like pushing that script away even further, disassociating it from it even more. It's like, it's how the script almost flips things in its head. So before you've done something, the script makes it out to be like the biggest thing ever in some cases. So like, let's say going to the gym. I know some people said going to the gym for their first time to do a workout by themselves or whatever, and not just being on the cardio machines, like actually going to the weights is like massive. But then it almost feels like once you've done it, the script's like, oh, like it minimizes it. So at first it maximizes it, and then once you've actually overcome it, it minimizes it and moves on to something else almost, or it might even exacerbate it. But I think just I actually can't remember my train of thought. I forgot where I was going. We're going into the gym and like basically overcoming. Oh, just over. Yes, yeah. I think like
the script makes it really, really daunting. Like, it made this podcast really, really daunting for me. And then we did it, and it like minimizes it, makes it almost feel like it beats me up for ever having felt like it was so daunting to begin with, I guess.
Yeah, it's hilarious, in fact.
It's just like getting me beforehand and then getting me afterhand for like almost two different things.
That reminds me, actually, because on Saturday, so Chris runs Hub Fitness, which is based in Stirling.
Yep.
And you run a strongman class on a Saturday morning, which I love to go to.
Run it with Ryan. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
If you're watching.
Or one viewer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really fun. So it's a base. Maybe you can explain what it is before I explain my story.
Well, Hub Fitness is just two outdoor. Basically, there was a time during COVID where we couldn't PT in gyms. We used to meet, myself and Ryan used to work in Pure Gym, and then we realised Ryan's dad has connections to kind of the place in Stirling where it's a cricket, football, rugby club, and they had a bit of grass they weren't using. And then they basically said Ryan could use it, and then we got talking about we could use it because we were allowed to be outside doing like one-to-one sessions, and then eventually we were allowed to be outside doing classes of however much it was, 8 people or 10 people, I can't remember. So we started doing that. We rented a small container, and then that grew, and eventually we bought a bigger container, and then we bought 2, and then it kind of became, we'd run like strength and fitness classes, and then myself and Ryan also run personal training businesses where we do one-to-one and group coaching out there.
Yeah, so the strongman class is more of a focus on strongman, the sport.
Sorry, and then we started a strongman class on Saturdays, which is like, well, it can be either or. So if someone specifically wants to compete, we can tailor the class to help someone treat it more like a sport, like they're trying to actually be really efficient with how they're doing the movements. But then some people come to class who don't want to compete, and then really what they can get from it is it's just an alternative way to strength train. You're still doing the basic, you're still pushing stuff, pulling stuff, squatting stuff, and hinging stuff. You're just now doing it with slightly different implements, and you can just, then you don't have to really worry about like the absolute efficiency of like the transitions and like the technique, or not the technique, the strategy of the sport. You don't need to worry about that stuff. You can literally just get the health benefits from it if you want. And then if you want to compete, you can worry about the strategy of the sport, but it's almost like two different things. But either person can come, and both people do come, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting learning like those movements, but in a different way. But anyway, the point of my story was, so on Saturday, Saturday morning, I go to this class, and you do things like, I need to get the names right. I never get the names right.
Well, what did you do this Saturday?
So there was the one with the stones, the Atlas stones up in the little bench thing.
So we finished on Atlas stones.
So
it's the round balls.
Yeah, so it's like the big strong men at Christmas time. They're on the telly and they do this, like they're massive, and I'm trying to be like them.
It's the thing they always finish on. The big Atlas stones is what they finish on, yeah.
So there was a couple of new girls that came to the class on Saturday.
That's right.
And I felt like the class, so I've been a bit more injured recently, so I've had like a really bad knee, my back hasn't been great, my shoulder hasn't been great, and I think it's because I work a very sedentary job and I can feel the effects.
Well, that's not what's wrong with Sarah's knee. Sarah has a sore knee, a knee injury, because she was in bed and I sat on her foot and twisted her knee the wrong way. Yeah. It's actually nothing to do with anything
Chris
that you did.
Sat on my leg.
I sat on her leg and twisted her knee.
And I've been out of exercise for like a year. But anyway, we're getting better.
You're not been out of exercise. It's really running, because Sarah, you were just getting into running at the time.
Yes, I was running,
and she was really enjoying it.
Couch to 5k sort of situation, and I was like, I'm gonna be like marathon runner.
You maybe lost like some momentum, but I think generally you've done really well to continue to like work around it. It's literally just, I think you're really enjoying running, and then it hit you hard that you couldn't do that anymore. Yeah, so because of your knee.
So this class was a big milestone for me in the fact that I wasn't in much pain anymore, which was really good. But sometimes coming to the classes, like I've really dreaded it or been nervous to go because I'm worried that something's gonna hurt. I don't feel as strong. Like I feel weak in my back because I've strained it or whatever. I'm not like entirely sure, but it's just taking time to rebuild that. So in the classes, I've always had a bit of a negative. Like the script's got me saying, why are you here? Like you shouldn't be here. You should just go home and be sleeping or chilling on the sofa, which ultimately wouldn't help. But anyway, there was these 2 new girls that came for the first time. And I think they do other sports elsewhere, but it was their first time doing strongman. And this girl rocked up to this 30 kilo Atlas stone and was like, I don't know what I'm doing. You did to give a demo, but it's that way, like until you do it yourself. It's a really
we did demo it.
But it's just a movement that you don't regularly do in the gym. It's not like deadlifting or press benching or whatever. Like it's a different move.
She basically one motioned it, so it's like you like deadlift up the stone, and then you sit it on your lap, and then you're almost like front squatting up, and then you push your hips into it onto the platform. Yeah.
And she obviously trains, and she's basically an athlete.
But she didn't do that. She basically just picked up and,
like it was a beach ball.
She just stood up straight away and sat on the platform.
Yeah, and she's like, and I felt bad because at the time we were laughing, but we weren't laughing at her. We were laughing because it was such shock that she was able to lift this ball so well and put it on the platform. And then we were like, hey, go up a weight. And she ended up going from a 30 kilo to a 50 in her first session ever. Did she do 60?
She did 60 for one. And she did it well and she did it right and it looked really good.
Yeah.
Like,
so the fact that like I was coming into those classes and the script really got me, and I was saying to me, you shouldn't be here. You're not good enough. You're weak. Why are you here? Like there's guys and girls like, and actually that session was all just women, which was amazing. It was like a strong woman class.
We usually do have a mix, but for whatever reason, all the guys weren't there that week.
Yeah, but I was watching this new girl do this and she had no clue. She was probably feeling nervous. Like I didn't get a chance to speak to her on that sort of level, but I'm sure she was feeling a bit nervous coming into a new class, meeting new people, whatever. And she smashed it. And I was sitting there being like, what am I so concerned about? Why am I letting the script get me in this way when I'm like, this girl's just come in, lifted that 50 kilo ball up on that shelf and didn't even know she was capable of doing it. And she just, she trains and does other things on the side, but it's completely different to strongman. And she just came in and smashed it and it was so inspiring. And I left the session like feeling really uplifted, and then I ended up getting a PB in my deadlift. Like my back wasn't sore, my knee wasn't hurting. And I was like, why am I not reveling in the fact that I can move my body and I can enjoy this sport instead of coming in and being like, oh, I need to do this so I can like either get like lose weight. Like I'm just having like a bad mentality around it. But watching this girl do it was so inspiring.
Good.
I don't know why we got onto that, but I think it was maybe going into gyms and things and trying to overcome. I'm like the fact that you don't know what's going to happen when you go into that gym, but you shouldn't be concerned about other people. You're gonna go and have a good time, and who knows what happened. You might be able to lift an Atlas stone that's like your body weight and put it on that little shelf thing and smash it. Like just go try it. And at the same time she was inspiring the regulars who've been there. Like you kind of remember why you're there, because it was amazing watching her being able to do that.
I think it's maybe like, so I think finding ways that you enjoy training that are fun for you are important. Like you're maybe touching on there a little bit, but then also finding ways just to make it a part of your life. Like I think that's kind of what I've been doing recently. One thing that people often say that they hate is like cardio. When I think it's probably it's the highest return fitness activity you could do. Like getting fitter is the highest return fitness thing.
What do you mean by highest return?
Like in terms of feeling better and like
health wise.
Yeah, health benefit wise. So like lowering all-cause mortality, feeling higher energy, recovering better, just generally having your body feel better too. I think it's one of the high, like I still think you should strength train. I think it's also incredibly high return. I just think cardio is, I personally think it's slightly higher return. So anyway, I think it's something I've been trying to like incorporate into my life more, opposed to, I do enjoy doing cardio, but I'm like, it is easy for it to fall to the wayside. So I've been trying to incorporate it into my life more. And what I mean by that is, so I've started going to touch rugby. So that's 6-a-side, running around, and it's really intense. So doing like 1 to 2 sessions of that a week. And then the other thing that I did is I bought a bike, which is just over there.
Which he didn't inform me about, I add.
I found it on Facebook Marketplace and it was a great deal. It was like £30 for this bike.
But we don't have a shed.
Yeah, but so much to Sarah's dismay, it's currently sitting against the table because when it's raining, I bring it inside. But it
helps his cardio journey. I've
only had it for like a few days, but we will find a way to store it outside.
We will find a way.
But anyway, again, it's just that way where I'm like 15-20 minute cycle from work. I'm like a 15, maybe 20-25 minutes, 20 minute cycle from the gym. That's not my work that I also train at. And even if we're ever going into town, I could cycle into town. I'm just like, it's just an opportunity for me to again incorporate a little bit of cardio. That's it's an easy way to make it part of my life.
Definitely.
I'm actually like I'm probably about a 10 minute cycle from my work, but it just means I can just accrue many minutes throughout the week of cycling that I can fit into my life, and it's just again going to make it's something I'll enjoy being outside cycling, just like I'm really enjoying the touch rugby, and it's a really good way for me to get in more cardio that I can just make a part of my life that I enjoy. I can make a part of my life, and then it just, again, I think the health benefits of cardio are just, like people are like, oh, it's just cliche to be like, I hate cardio and all that, but it's honestly really, really beneficial.
But why do you think that is? Like, why do you think people have this opinion where like, oh, I hate doing cardio, or I love strength? Like, I feel like, I mean, I might be generalizing here, and so don't hate me. I just feel like in my circle or my world, like there's a lot of people who are like, I prefer to do weight training over cardio. Like they were always like, oh, I have, like it's like more of an effort, like they have to get cardio involved in their training program. They're like, oh, I'll definitely be at the gym weight training, but I need to make sure I get like that 45 minutes in, but yeah, I have to.
I think probably the main problem is that people find it boring. Like, it's uncomfortable, like you have to be kind of uncomfortable for 45 minutes, but you're uncomfortable basically just doing one thing, not that's like very like repetitive. So I think people just find that boring. So I think people just find it boring. I think is the main problem. I think the best ways around that are to entertain yourself. If you're like, I really want to go run, or I want to like be in a piece of cardio kit, if that's what you want to generally do, then just but you're bored by it. Just a bit of a contradiction, but anyway, say that's what you enjoy doing, that's what you would like to do more of, then just entertain yourself. So literally just put on a good podcast, put on some good music, watch something on the telly. So I have a spin bike here that I go on sometimes, and I'll use it when it's maybe raining outside and I can't get outside, and I'll literally just put on like The Office or something on Netflix and just watch it. That's a really good option. Then the other thing is do it with people. Yeah,
I was about to say get friends involved.
So
arrange to go for a walk with somebody.
And then the other thing that is also incorporates doing it with people that I've been doing is like I'm playing a cardio based sport. So I am running around, and you do get tired and out of breath and stuff, but you're not bored, and like you're working as a team. So I'm tired and I've been running for a little bit, but then I'm like, my team is pushing up the field in attack, or we're retreating in defense.
A lot of movement.
No, what I mean is the team needs me. So I'm like, even though I'm tired, I'm like, well, I need to go move. I need to go get there. Like the team needs me to be there. So it's like, it just encourages me to continue on. Whereas, so the discomfort kind of is overridden because of that. The boredom's overridden because it's fun and you're with people.
And the competitiveness, I guess, in the team aspect as well. Like,
it
just goes all out the window. You're like, right, if I need to win or I need to help my team, like your mind's shifted.
In a way, yeah. So I think those are the things that I would recommend people do to overcome the fact that it's boring. Entertain yourself, do it with other people, or just find an activity. Because there's so many activities you to do. Because we've recently started going to salsa. So that salsa, Cuban salsa, something I did before, and Sarah's just recently taken it up. And the classes aren't strenuous. Like if you can walk around for like an hour without it being strenuous, you have no problem with it.
Yeah, but it gets your steps in.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, like, although the actual act of the class isn't very cardio-ish, when you actually, because we've not done this yet, but when you go out dancing socially, like if you're literally on the dance floor for like a couple of hours non-stop, that will get your heart rate up and it will get you moving, and it's just like an easy-ish form of cardio that you can engage in. That's really good for you, because
and it's so fun.
I think that's like also worth saying. Like, I think maybe people don't enjoy cardio as well is because they always, especially people who maybe like strength, but they are not always, people often treat it as like it has to be a test, so they always push cardio to the limit. It can't ever just like I think people who are more experienced in the gym quickly realize that you can't just constantly push all your strength training to the limit and not have it like be an issue. And I think cardio is largely the same. Like I think you can't, if all you do is just redline yourself constantly, it's not very fun and you're quickly going to run into a wall. Whereas if you can engage in like different types of cardio, so I think redlining yourself sometimes is good for you. Because
you're under stress, aren't you?
You're under stress, but it's just like, it can quickly creep up on you if you're constantly redlining yourself. So I think if you do that a little bit, but then you also kind of do some moderate cardio where you definitely probably can't talk, and you're not going all out. It's just
you don't always have to push yourself.
I think the real great cardio piece that people miss out on is kind of this like easy-ish type of cardio, like zone 2 is what it's called. It's like, it's kind of a bit of a craze at the moment, but you don't need to worry about what is zone 1 and zone 2 and zone. That doesn't matter. I think what matters is it's just you engage in some type of like easy-ish form of cardio that you could do a lot of, and it's only really going to benefit you. And I think something like salsa really fits that well. Again, if you wanted to do it on a piece of cardio kit, you could like just go a swim or a run or a cycle and just keep it really easy. So you like, by really easy I mean you might sweat a wee bit, but you can largely hold a conversation for the duration of it. That's what I would describe as like easy, just as a simple metric to gauge how hard it is. You can hold a conversation and you can sustain it for 30 minutes plus. Yeah. And I'd say doing it for that length of time is probably a good idea. Like I'd say at least 20 minutes, but then up to as long as you can be bothered, a good idea. But if you don't want to like go a cycle or swim or a run, if that's not your thing, something like dance, going out dancing, and obviously different types of dances will have different intensities, and how hard you dance will change the intensity too. But going out like a partner dance like that for 2-3 hours would definitely fulfill that.
Yeah.
As again, a way just to incorporate, you're with people, you're having fun, there's music, you're moving, but you're also getting your heart rate up and getting the health benefits. I think that's something that could definitely be incorporated too.
It's incorporating into your day-to-day lifestyle, like trying to find a way to like cycling, walking, and it fitting into your schedule, especially people who are like in different circumstances where like I work a 9-to-5 job, but you're self-employed. If you're a single parent, like trying to find these different ways of incorporating how you move your body amongst your life is super, super important, because you don't want to burn yourself out. Like I used to, whenever I was at uni and I discovered gym classes and I loved them, but I would end up trying to do like 2 classes a day where I would just completely burn myself out and I was exhausted, and then I need to take like a few days off for a break, and maybe I would eat a little bit more food, and it was just a bit of a vicious cycle, and I felt like my body was constantly under stress. And I think even from like a female point of view, when you're trying to be more concerned about your cycle and trying to keep things on track, I find that situation where you're redlining, where you're doing like either interval or HIIT training, and it's a lot of like your heart rate's high for quite a lot of the time. Mine was, in most exercises I was doing, maybe except from body pump, my heart rate was super, super high, and I felt burnt out to the extent, I don't know if you mean there's other like health, like negative side effects or whatever, I'm not too sure, from like that knowledge aspect, from like my own personal experience, I really felt like it raised my cortisol levels high, but then it would prolong my cycle. And I'd feel like even with like chatting with my friends and things, they wanted to incorporate like lighter movements, whether you're walking or yoga or Pilates, amongst their HIIT and like interval training to balance it out. And I think in that way it would also give your body a rest. But from like a female point of view, we're always trying to like, we don't want our cortisol to be too high, like that sort of stress element, to ensure like your period isn't as painful, or it really, I feel like it really affected my cycle in that way.
I think that can also make cardio fun too, finding ways to like, it doesn't always have to be an all-out effort, because that can also remove the enjoyment for some people.
How do you feel like you incorporate that into your own training? Because it must be quite a, like, I know you train by yourself, but like, see if you're training in a group of people, or like if I find I'm at the strongman class and there's other people involved, and I look at the weights that they're doing, and of course people will hype you up and get you like, oh come on, just put an extra little bit on, but sometimes it comes to a point where you're like, I actually can't do that, or I need a rest day, or like how do you implement that? Like, do you find like a mental aspect of your training is
how do I implement it, or how do I talk to my clients about it?
Yeah, I mean yourself and your clients, like,
how
do you find it's quite a mental aspect where you really need to like either tell your clients to remind them that you really don't push yourself too much? Like, do you have to keep reminding them, and like how do you find it? Like,
well, that's the thing. So there's definitely clients that exist on two sides of the same coin, I suppose, where there'll be clients who literally need to push harder, like they maybe they've never exercised before and they've been sedentary their life, and they don't really know how to push, and like when they feel the discomfort in their body that comes with exercise, they're unfamiliar with that, and they need to learn how to basically be comfortable with that feeling and that it's okay, and then learn how to actually push. And like whether it's strength training or cardio, it probably is good for a time for them to really learn how to push a bit harder. And then there is some people who probably just who do push too hard too often. And yeah, with them, it's like, for them, and I am someone who's definitely fallen in this category. I think it's just a conversation. It's just regular conversations about like, they've overshot, and like, oh, how did that make you feel? What is it we're aiming for here? What is it we're actually trying to get out of this? Why are we doing this? Just kind of like recenter that. And then eventually over time, it's just like, they start to see, oh yeah, like they just start to get more comfortable. They start to get more comfortable in their own body, and their understanding about that they don't always need to push, and
like
that
it's okay.
But I think that's the thing. I think that's why that mental and physical fitness are so hand in hand, because it's, some people do it because like they do it as a form of punishment in some regard, and there's many reasons why people might be doing that, but they're constantly pushing so hard in the gym. Because I think for me, I was doing it because the script had convinced me that I needed to look a certain way, and I needed to not portray a certain image. I wanted to look a certain way, and I thought I had to push really hard in the gym to do that. But then it almost became like this, like, it's hard to put into words, but it was an addiction in a sense, but I felt like I had to push really hard to,
for like looking for the result, or
no, to almost like try and numb the script in a sense. Like, So it's hard to put into words. Maybe I'll think about that and we can talk about it a later date, exactly how I was maybe using exercise as a form of like, or the script was using it as a form of like punishment or abuse, like, because that is something I've done in the past. And I'll think on that a bit more, and maybe I'll reflect on that and come back with it. But I've lost my train of thought again about where I was going with this. What were we talking about?
About like with your clients and yourself, like how you
asked
do
me
that mental aspect as well as like your physical training, like really trying to balance it so you don't burn yourself out.
I think it literally comes back to what I said before, where I've said what underpins everything that I talk about now, which is being able to separate yourself from the script, and doing exercise because you love yourself and not because you hate yourself. I think helping people have that shift is really important, but then also just educating people on they're actually trying to get stronger, or they're actually trying to like make progress in the gym. If you just constantly like RPE 10 or red line in the weights room, it's just, you're not going to feel great, and it's going to creep up on you very quickly, especially when you're beyond just like when most people start in the gym, they're very weak. And for them, it's not such a big deal because they're so weak that, you know, you're just bench pressing the bar, although it feels really hard for you. You're not actually, it's not heavy enough to be a real problem. So they can get away with it, but eventually you're benching 60 kilos and you're benching 100 kilos. Eventually it gets heavy enough that if you just are constantly doing that, it'll be a problem.
Right.
So there's just people, but then there's probably potentially people who are listening who that's not a problem for. And I think it's just having an honest conversation with yourself about who you are. Are you someone who maybe actually does need to push a bit harder to really get results? Because you actually have to stress your body somewhat in order for it to adapt.
I feel like that's quite a really big self-reflection moment, because I even try and think about myself whenever I'm doing training, and I'm like, am I pushing myself hard enough? Like, am I going in just running through the motions, and I really need to like take a second? Because of course, I mean, if you've had a really busy day at work and you're like physically exhausted and you're showing up to your fitness class or the gym and you may not be feeling 100% that day, like sometimes I feel like you do need to listen to your body, and especially if I'm at certain times of the month, like I'll be more powerful than the next week. But it's then, I wonder, especially from a personal trainer point of view, how do you like chat with people or have that, how would you, if I was your client and you said to me, right, we can push a bit harder without pushing too hard, because obviously you can't tell how I feel.
So that for me, so the two mantras I use for that is going heavy for the day or going intense for the day, depending on what we're doing. And let's say it's strength training, so it's going heavy for the day. So I don't tend to prescribe weights for my clients. I don't tend to do that. I don't say like, oh, this week we're doing 100 kilos. Like, it's more so I'll use something called rate of perceived exertion, which is basically how hard did that feel? And then I'll prescribe like a range in that. So I might say, so if 10 is like you could do no more.
Yeah.
And then let's say in 5 on the RPE scales, you could do about 5 more. Ish, simply way to put it, right? So most people will be working somewhere in that range when they're doing strength training, somewhere between 5 and 10. Or that's where you probably want to be, somewhere in that range. And I'll basically tell people we're going to work at an RP 6 to 8 today, and I just want you to do what feels like that for the day, or feels heavy for the day. So let's say we've been working on 100 kilos on the bench press, let's say, but then this week we work up to 90, and it like you get 5 on it and it feels like, oh, that I could maybe only do 2 more, so that's an RP 8. It feels really heavy. I'm like, well, we've gone heavy for the day, I'm happy with that. Because for me, I think that the other mentality I try to get across to them is like, what's the rush? Like, the only reason people would push themselves too hard is in some ways is because maybe they're in a rush. Like, what is the rush? What's the rush? Like, in theory, we should be doing this for the rest of our lives. Like, and people always underestimate the progress they could make in 10 years with something if they're just consistent at it. So I'm just like, what's the rush with this?
Yeah, as long as you're showing up, that's all you can really ask for, right?
It's just help. So I've just got, whether someone's on either side of that coin, like, I think helping someone understand how to go heavy for the day. So people who maybe need to push a bit harder, it's just, again, an ongoing education of actually showing up to the gym and just pushing yourself a little bit and getting comfortable pushing yourself a bit harder. And then it's people who do push themselves a little bit too hard. It's just trying to help them regulate that a little bit and not always feel like they have to go all out. And that the sweet spot is kind of somewhere in the middle there for both people. And it's just helping people understand what heavy for the day is, helping people understand, like, to listen to their body, that like there's no rush.
Yeah.
That what RPE is and how to use it. Like, how do you actually feel like? Here's a good one. Like, how do you understand what RPE is? I think the best way to educate people is with a safe exercise that they're probably not going to hurt themselves on. RPE 10 means you couldn't do another rep.
Yeah.
No more. Take a bicep curl. So you put the weight in your hand and you curl up to your shoulder. Just do that. Pick a weight, and if you get to like 30 reps and you've still not failed, pick a heavier weight. And then say you get to like 13 reps and then you're trying to do 14 and you only just manage it, and you try and do 15 and maybe you could get it with a crazy swing, but really just trying to focus on the bicep, you try and do it and you can't do any more. That's what an RPE 10 feels like. You just go until you literally can't do any more. I think using exercises like that's a great way to teach someone like who's maybe struggling with intensity or going all out, what going all out feels like in a safe way. And then I've even used things like pushing a sled, like really helping someone understand what intensity feels like by really pushing someone. And that I don't do that so much because that's a bit more horrible. Like, it's just really difficult.
Yeah, and you can actually like not push it.
You can't, yeah, but you're unlikely to get to. I'd say the bicep curl is the best one. I wouldn't tend to push someone to failure on a sled because it's so horrible, but it's more just like I'll use it as a way to like let's get you to push the sled and like let's work really hard. Again, it's quite a safe exercise. I won't tend to push someone to failure on that because it is truly horrible, but I will make someone work kind of hard on it, again, just so they get the idea.
Yeah.
Having said all of that though, when someone comes to the gym or comes to work with me and they don't know how to push, or they don't understand how to push hard, and I know they need to push harder than they're pushing to really stress their body enough to get results, what I don't do is become drill sergeant and start shouting at them to try and get them to push hard quickly, because I want them to build a really positive relationship with exercise. So really all they have to do is, as soon as they're feeling comfortable with a weight, say they're doing a back squat, say all they do in the first session of the back squat is we squat the empty bar.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, how did that feel? It felt pretty good. I'm like, next time I see them, it's like, shall we put the 2.5s on, 1.25 kilos on? We do that. If we just keep doing that, eventually it'll get hard enough for them that they're like, oh, this is actually really difficult. But by then they'll have just seen every week or a couple of weeks, we've put a little bit more weight on the bar, and they've just built this really positive relationship with exercise. We're like, oh, I'm getting stronger. I'm really enjoying this. It takes time, but it's like, I'm saying with the bicep curl and the sled's a great way to learn intensity, but you may not even need to do that in terms of, like the thing I said with the sled, you may not ever need to do that. That's maybe a tool I would only use in a specific case when someone's been coming to me for a while and they are really struggling to understand intensity. It's more if someone just shows up to the gym and they constantly just try and do a bit more each time, eventually it'll just get really hard. Yeah. And over the course of that time, they'll just learn what hard feels like. But the bicep curl is a great one to really learn what failure in an exercise feels like. What does it really feel like for muscular failure to occur in an exercise? And then you can kind of take that knowledge onto other stuff. Because I don't think you should do it in a back squat by yourself. It's pretty unsafe. Yeah, I'm just going to put a bar on my back with some weight and go up and down until I literally can't stand back up. Pretty stupid idea. But something like a bicep curl I think is a lot safer to do. And then you learn, and then you can take it to a back squat. So like, oh, I kind of have an idea of what it feels like now to go to an RPE 10. So now I can start to go to that 6 or that 7 or that 8 and have a bit of a gauge about what that feels like.
Yeah, but I think you're providing such a safe environment for people to do that. And it takes time, but ultimately it's a conversation that just always needs to be had. Like I think you're always communicating with your client or whoever is in the gym or whatever, like how does that feel if you're not feeling it today, we don't need to put another weight on. Or because I feel like, thinking about back to my gym classes, if there was a PT in that class saying go down, don't do the option, like you can kick higher or whatever, like I would do it. So I'm wondering why, like in my brain, the script's either stopping me or I can't.
Stopping you what, sorry?
Like I'm not pushing myself. Like I need someone to shout at me for me able to push myself. I'm trying to learn whenever I'm going to the classes myself how I get that extra like 10%, because I don't think now, just based off this discussion, like we're talking freely here, I'm now sort of thinking maybe I'm not pushing myself as hard as I should be, especially when it comes to weight training, because I'm relatively new to that. But anyway,
don't be yourself. Like to learn how to actually push harder with weights is something that's like I know a lot of people struggle with, because we see it in the classes. So we have cardio classes and we have strength training classes, and people always perceive the cardio classes as harder first because it's like more non-stop. Whereas the weight training, we have like kind of like prescribed rests, like minimum rests. People can rest longer if they want, but we always prescribe like try and prescribe like more minimum risk people take. And that feels harder because then you do like a set of 10 and you're not very strong, and you also don't really know how to push very hard with weights, and then you're resting for like 2-3 minutes, then you do that again and you're like, this isn't very hard. Then you come to the cardio class and it's like you're pushing sledge, you're hitting sledgehammers, you're running, like, and you're like, oh, this is really difficult, but it's just a different type of intensity. I'd say to you, what I would say is just show up and don't like, just focus on slowly getting stronger over time. So let's say we're doing a set of 6 on deadlift, you manage that with 60 kilos and you're like, it felt pretty good. I feel like I could definitely I definitely could have done a couple more there. Let's just put on 62.5. You do that, and then you're like, after a week or two of that, you're like, I definitely could have done a couple more there. Then we put 65. Eventually, it's like you can't just keep doing that till you're deadlifting 500 kilos.
Yeah.
Or we'd all just be deadlifting 500 kilos. Eventually, you're going to reach this point where it just starts to become really difficult, and you're like, oh, I understand what this starts to feel like, what this feels like now.
Yeah.
I'd say that's what I'd say for anyone. It's like, don't get stuck just doing the same weights at the gym. Pick a range. Say it's like you're doing the bench press. I'm going to go, the range of reps is 6 to 10. Say I'm doing it with 40 kilos. Once I can get 10 reps, and it's not 10 where it's like an absolute like eyes popping at my head 10. It's like I get to 10 and I can do a couple more for sure. I'll just go to 42.5.
Yeah.
And then I'll just go to 45, and then I'll just go to 47.5, and I'll just keep doing that until eventually the weight starts to get heavier, it starts to get harder, and you've really loved and enjoyed that process. Like, it doesn't need to be more complicated than that, I don't think. And eventually, say 40 kilos isn't actually that stressful for you and you've totally messed up.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I got to 10 and I feel like I could have done 2 more. No, you probably could have done about 15 more. You've totally undershot. Still, just go to 42.5. Like, what's the rush? And then you do that. And again, you get to 10 and you've totally undershot. You could have done like 14 more. Over the course of the next 6 months, if you just keep adding 2.5 kilos every week, eventually you're going to get to the point where you get to 10 and you actually could have only done 1 or 2 more.
Yeah, it's just time and consistency.
It's just, there's no rush. What's the rush? Like, it's we're going to be doing this for the rest of our lives. We're going to be looking, in theory, we're hopefully going to be looking after our bodies for the rest of our lives, doing some cardio and some strength training in some regard. So there's no rush. You work that out with time.
Yeah.
If you just keep showing up and actively try and get stronger, or you actively add weight to the bar as and when you feel comfortable to do it, as long as you're doing that over time, eventually you'll get there.
How was your training this week? How often do you train?
Well, my training this week was really good.
Why?
Well, I spoke about it in my story, so I think the main thing was I squatted this week and my knees felt really good. So I had just started, I was doing touch rugby, I took that up recently. I'd started doing more jumping in my training and more sprinting. I was already doing a bit of that stuff, but I upped the ante to help me with my touch rugby. And I then wanted to get better at squatting because my deadlifting's a lot better at squatting, so I started squatting more, and all of that combination, just doing too much too soon of all that, upset my knees a little bit. So once I realised, I was just having a lot of fun with it all, and I realised, oh wait, I'm doing way too much too soon. It's all really impacting my knees. My knees haven't had time to adapt to what I'm doing with it, so I just pulled back on all of that, and I'm now doing touch rugby a bit less. I'm doing less jumping, less sprinting, and I'm still doing the same amount of squatting. I've just decided to focus a bit more on the squatting at the moment, and my knees have been feeling really good doing that. So,
but that's a prime example right there where you're not pushing too hard.
It's just listen to my body.
Listen to your body to know that you want to keep moving, keep feeling good, and keep progressing. And progressive overload, is that correct?
Yeah.
So it's the fact that you were to make that realization to be like, we just need to step back here to then move forward. So
yes, but and to answer your question, just to maybe finish off how often I train. I don't actually have a structure I follow with my strength training in terms of, so I'm trying to incorporate my cardio like I've been saying. So I do touch rugby once or twice a week. I'm trying to cycle more places. We do salsa once a week. So that's, I guess, like my cardio. And then my strength training at the moment is I have upper body and lower body days. And I'll usually do 2, so 1 upper and 1 lower. And then at most I'll usually do 4. And I really don't have a plan with that. It's more just like time availability and how I'm feeling. So if I do an upper day and I'm feeling really good the next day, I'll just do a lower day. If I'm feeling more tired or I need a day off, I take a day off, and then I'll do a lower day the next day. So maybe some people don't have I have a bit more flexibility in my schedule like that because I'm self-employed, where I can kind of have like alternate days, or I can maybe just be I don't have to work out every Monday. Sometimes it's Tuesday, sometimes it's Wednesday, sometimes it's Monday and Wednesday. But if I was stuck with my schedule, I'd probably be 3 days a week if I was, when there's been times where I've had to be a bit more strict about my schedule. It's usually 3. And then if I am still feeling under the weather, I'll still go in, but I'll just take it a lot lighter.
Yeah.
But right now it's 2 to 4 strength, and then touch rugby once or twice a week, salsa once a week, and then now I'm going to start cycling more places.
Nice.
But I think it's probably a very good conversation for today. Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm happy to wrap it up there. We've said a lot. And yeah, we'll see you guys in episode 3.
Episode 3, yes. Looking forward to it.
Cool. If you made it this far, thank you so much.
Yeah,
we still don't have an email, but we'll have a TikTok at Life Unscripted.
Yep.
And we'll also, if you want to contact us with any questions, and I'm on Instagram under @CoachChrisMayer, and you can contact us there via Instagram if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah.
Either of those, the messages will get to us.
And I think for next week, we're going to take a bit more of a discussion on what your Pearl of the Week was.
Yeah.
And
we were going to do that this week, but we've not got
We ran out of time. We've had a bit too much of a chat here.
Yeah.
But I think, we're going to talk about what you really love from your week. So if you want to message us and drop us a message about what was your most, it could be big or small, it could be like you had this most delicious meal ever, you went to an amazing concert, you got a promotion, like it's called the Appreciation Gym. So I think really appreciating those things in your life that you may take for granted. So
just checking the time.
I think
here we're good.
Yeah, I think if we could all think about that, and we'll think about that for next week as well. So please drop us a message. Tell us what was amazing in your week. Big or small, could be that you woke up and you had fresh sheets in your bed. Doesn't matter. I think it's just remembering how grateful we should be about where we are.
Maybe as an example, yesterday myself and Sarah were at a strongman competition in Glasgow. Mm-hmm. And a big pearl for me was basically we were sitting in our seats and the last event was coming on. I'm like, let's just stand up so we can get away, or just
quick
the
exit.
show was coming to an end. So I'm like, let's just got to stand up and the show was coming to an end. And then we stood up and Sarah was like, oh, they're going to tell us off. No one else is standing up. And
that's the script.
But anyway, they did actually tell us to go back to our seats. But when because Sarah was feeling a bit uncomfortable with us standing, and I could feel myself getting annoyed about the fact that Sarah was feeling uncomfortable. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Even if they tell us to go back to our seats, it doesn't matter. Like, don't.
But in my head, the script makes it out to be the biggest deal ever. So I'm sitting there being like, oh.
But anyway, I think the big thing for me is, as I was getting annoyed at you over that, I usually retroactively I'd be like, oh, that was the script. That's what was happening. That was the script. And then I'd apologise if I'd done anything I need to apologise for. But even if I didn't do anything I need to apologise for, I'd still recognise after the fact that it was the script that was making me annoyed. However, in that moment, I was able to be like, no, this is the script. Like, why am I getting annoyed? Like, I want to have a different reaction. I don't want to have a scripty reaction right now, and I didn't.
No, and we were fine.
Eventually we sat in our seats and we just laughed it off again.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that was a real pearl for me, to be able to be in a moment where I would maybe sometimes get frustrated, where I was like, no, this isn't me. I'm not having this frustrated reaction right now. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna have fun. That's what I would choose to do right now.
Yeah.
Like you were feeling uncomfortable because we were standing. I'm like, in case someone told us off or told us to go back to our seats, and I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I'm getting really annoyed that you're worrying about it. And I'm like, why? I'm like,
yeah,
just
it was the script.
It's just the script. And then
for both of us.
And then rather than us having a script on script in that moment, mm-hmm. we just had a laugh about it, because it's so silly. Someone did tell us to go back to our seats, and then it was just funny. Yeah.
And then whenever we got back into the car, you actually communicated that to me. You said that exact story mm-hmm. to the viewers. You said that to me, and in the moment you said, the one thing I fixated on, I didn't fixate on the fact that, oh, this is a really positive, powerful moment that I realized it was a script and I disassociated and let it go. But I focused on the fact that, sorry, it wasn't me, it was the script. Focused on the fact that you said that you were annoyed. Mm-hmm. And we can delve into that later down the line, but I have this big story where I think you're going to leave me and we're going to break up because it's all my fault. I'm annoying. I'm the worst girlfriend in the world, yada, yada, yada. So the script was like, oh, see, it's true. And I'm not going to, but the script will hold on to that piece of evidence forever.
Yeah.
No matter what. And I'm trying my best to disassociate, because in that moment you even said, don't focus on that. I've said this to you to be a moment.
It was a positive moment for me.
It was a positive moment. And I was like, you find me annoying? That was the first thing I said. And he opened up and he had the realization that we're not going to have an argument about this. It's stupid, but we easily could have. And I think it's so important that we did have that moment. And the script can go away, but I'm sorry that I decided to choose that fact, that in that moment that we had such a positive moment, but we easily could have led into an argument, but instead we had a great rest of the evening, we had a laugh and we came home, and yeah, that was it. So I think it's
bloody script.
The script is so annoying, but it's so great to have that revelation that it's not us, and we were able to completely remove ourselves from the situation and keep ourselves there, because we didn't need to have an argument. We were totally fine, and we came home and that was it. But yeah, so take your pearl from
Did a little bit of pearls of the week after all. So that's us for today.
Yeah.
And we will talk soon.
Yeah, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.